June 23rd, 1941, 4:40 in the morning. A narrow road east of Raseiniai, Lithuania. The sun is not fully up yet. It leaks slowly over flat fields and low trees, turning the morning mist pale gray. Engines idle. Metal clicks as it cools from a night of movement. Somewhere behind the line, a truck backfires and dies. The smell of fuel hangs in the air. Oberfeldwebel Karl Weiss stands half out of the turret of his Panzer III, binoculars pressed to his eyes. He has been awake for nearly 2 days. The invasion began yesterday, and everything so far has gone the way it always does. Soviet units collapse, trucks burn, prisoners walk west with their hands on their heads. This will be over by autumn, someone had said back in East Prussia. Weiss almost believes it. The order comes down the line. Advance, clear the road, push east, tracks grind forward. The column stretches, gray vehicles crawling like insects through the fog. Infantry jog beside them, rifles slung, boots already wet from dew. Somewhere ahead, artillery thumps, distant, methodical. Then Weiss sees something that does not fit. At first, it is only movement, a dark shape crossing between trees, low, wide. Not a truck, not a bunker. He lowers the binoculars, raises them again. What is that? The gunner mutters. The shape emerges fully onto the road. It is a tank, but not one Weiss recognizes. Its hull is slanted, angled like a blade. The turret sits back, rounded, almost smooth. The tracks are unusually wide, chewing through the soft ground without slowing. It looks heavier than anything the Red Army has shown so far, and it is moving fast. Weiss feels a brief flicker of amusement. Another Soviet mistake, he thinks. Another oversized machine that will break down after 10 kilometers. Target front, he says calmly. Range? 500 meters. The gunner aligns the 37mm cannon. The familiar weapon, reliable, trusted. The crew has a nickname for it, the door knocker, because it usually does not need more than one hit. Fire! The shot cracks through the morning. The shell strikes the tank's front armor and vanishes in a spark. The Soviet tank does not stop. A second round is loaded, fired. Another sharp impact. Another spark. No smoke. No flame. No slowing. Inside the Panzer, the air changes. The joke dies quietly. Again, Weiss says, tighter now. The third shot hits lower, near the glacis. It ricochets away with a metallic scream. The Soviet tank keeps coming. For a moment, there's only engine noise, the deep, heavy growl of something built differently. The ground vibrates under its tracks. Then the Soviet turret turns. You can hear it before you see the result. A flat, heavy boom. Not sharp like German guns. Deeper, final. The Panzer behind Weiss erupts in fire. The blast lifts the turret slightly before it settles back, crooked. Smoke pours out. A crewman stumbles free, burning, before collapsing in the dirt. Weiss freezes for half a second. Reverse! Reverse! Someone shouts over the radio. The column breaks its neat order. Panzers back up. Infantry scatter into ditches. Officers scream for anti-tank guns. A Pak 37 is dragged into position by sweating soldiers. Its thin shield rattles as the crew drops it into place. They fire at close range. The shell strikes the Soviet tank squarely. Nothing. The Soviet machine rolls forward indifferent, as if the hits are rain. Inside it, a young Red Army driver named Nikolai Petrov keeps his eyes fixed ahead. His orders were simple. Block the road. Delay the enemy. He does not know he is making history. He only knows the engine is holding steady and the tank feels strong beneath him. Back on the German side, Weiss tastes metal in his mouth. He realizes, with a cold clarity, that no one told them about this. This is not a fluke, not a single prototype. Another dark shape appears behind the first, then another. Their silhouettes cut through the fog like moving walls. Someone laughs, sharp and nervous. What did they build this time? No one answers. The Germans had crossed the border expecting an old war. What rolls toward them now belongs to a new one. And in the space of a few terrible minutes, German tank crews understand something they have not felt before. Not confidence, not momentum, uncertainty. By mid-morning, the road near Raseiniai is no longer a road at all. It is a knot of steel and smoke. Burned-out trucks block the verges. Craters pock the dirt. Radios crackle with voices talking over each other, none of them calm. Oberfeldwebel Karl Weiss crouches beside his Panzer now, helmet off, hands shaking as he reloads a magazine for his pistol. His tank is intact, for the moment, but the confidence he carried across the border has drained away. "Where are the 88s?" someone shouts. No one answers. The anti-aircraft guns are miles behind, assigned to other columns, other priorities. No one planned for this. Another Soviet tank lumbers into view, then another. Their paint is rough, welds are visible. These are not parade machines. They look unfinished, almost crude, and yet they move with terrifying purpose. A lieutenant named Franz Adler crawls up beside Weiss. Adler is 24. He smells of sweat and dust, eyes wide behind round glasses. "Our rounds do nothing," Adler says. "They're bouncing off like pebbles." Weiss nods once. He has seen it with his own eyes. The 37mm guns are useless against the sloped armor. The angle deflects the shells. The steel is thicker than expected. The math no longer works. An order crackles through the radio. Aim for the tracks. The next volley strikes low. One shell shatters a guide tooth. The Soviet tank lurches, slows, then stops. A small cheer rises from the German line. It dies quickly. The immobilized tank continues to fire. Its turret traverses smoothly, calmly. Another Panzer explodes. Infantry scatter as high explosive rounds slam into the roadside. Weiss watches one of his men, a loader named Emil Kraus, sprint toward a ditch. Kraus trips. He does not get up. The battlefield has changed shape. This is no longer an advance. It is a desperate attempt to survive. Across the road, Nikolai Petrov feels the jolt as his tank shudders to a halt. The engine still runs. The gun still works. Smoke leaks from a damaged exhaust, but the armor holds. "Tracks are damaged," he calls out. The commander, Sergeant Ivan Morozov, peers through his optics. He sees German tanks pulling back, infantry hugging the ground. "Then we stay," Morozov says. "We block them here." Hours pass like this. German artillery pounds the area. Dust clouds rise and settle. The Soviet tank is hit again and again. Paint peels, bolts shear, but it does not burn. German engineers attempt a daring rush with satchel charges. One makes it close enough to throw. The explosion rocks the tank, dents the side. Still, it stands. By afternoon, the road is silent except for crackling fires and distant gunfire. The Soviet tank is finally abandoned when its ammunition runs low. The crew escapes into the woods. Weiss does not cheer when it ends. He sits on the hull of his Panzer, staring at the scarred steel carcass in front of him. He touches the angled armor with his bare hand. It is warm, solid, real. "How many more?" Adler asks quietly. Weiss does not know. That is what frightens him most. That night, reports move west faster than the tanks ever could. Messages sent up the chain of command. Descriptions scribbled in grease pencil. Sketches drawn from memory. A new Soviet tank. Sloped armor. Wide tracks. A gun that kills at long range. Standard weapons ineffective. Somewhere far behind the lines. In offices with maps and electric lights, German officers read the reports twice. Then a third time. This was not supposed to happen in the first week. The laughter that once followed Red Army equipment is gone now, replaced by something colder, concern. June 25th, 1941. Army Group Center headquarters, somewhere east of Minsk. The room smells of cigarette smoke and ink. Maps cover the walls. Red and blue arrows stabbing deep into Soviet territory. Officers move with practiced speed, boots clicking on wooden floors. The mood is confident on the surface. It has to be. Colonel Heinrich Vogt stands at a long table reading a field report that refuses to make sense. He reads it again, then once more. A Soviet medium tank, the report says, with sloped armor impervious to 37mm fire at all ranges. Vogt exhales slowly through his nose. He taps the paper with a pencil, as if the words might rearrange themselves. Across from him, Major Otto Brandt folds his arms. "Exaggeration," Brandt says. "Crews panic under fire. It happens every campaign." Vogt does not answer immediately. He has been in Poland, in France. He knows the difference between panic and pattern. "There are 12 reports like this," Vogt says finally. "Different units, different sectors, same description." Brandt frowns. "Then why haven't we seen it before?" "That," Vogt replies, "is the wrong question." Far to the east, Karl Weiss and what remains of his unit bivouac beside the wreckage of Soviet trucks. The men speak in low voices. No jokes, no songs. Weiss cleans his pistol slowly, methodically. His loader's seat is empty now. Kraus is gone. So are others. A young replacement named Lucas Hahn sits nearby, staring at the fire. "I thought our tanks were the best in the world," he says, not accusing, just confused. Weiss looks at him. He considers lying. He does not. "They were," Weiss says. "Yesterday." On another front, near Dubno, German Panzer units collide with entire formations of the same new Soviet tank. Not one, not two, dozens. The ground shakes under their movement. Wide tracks glide over mud that bogs down German vehicles. Sloped armor shrugs off shells. Their diesel engines burn cooler, safer, less prone to fire. German crews try everything. Flanking shots, point-blank fire, artillery mines. Sometimes it works, often it does not. Each encounter chips away at something invisible but vital. Certainty. Inside one Soviet tank, a political officer reads orders aloud over the engine noise. Hold ground, delay the enemy. Time matters more than survival. The Red Army is reeling everywhere else. Entire divisions collapse. But here, inside these machines, the balance feels different. Back in Germany, the reports reach engineers and designers who have never heard a shot fired in anger. Men in white shirts and rolled sleeves lean over blueprints late into the night. Sloped armor. That word appears again and again. "How did we miss this?" one asks. No one answers. The German army had built its doctrine around speed, coordination, precision. Tanks were part of a system, not solitary monsters. The Soviet T-34 does not care about doctrine. It is simple, brutal, effective. By early July, orders go out quietly. Avoid direct engagement when possible. Use 88mm guns. Call for air support. Aim for tracks and rear armor. These are stopgaps. Everyone knows it. Karl Weiss learns the name at last when a captured Soviet manual is translated. To 34. He repeats it under his breath. The sound sticks. The laughter is completely gone now. In its place is urgency. Something has to change. And fast. July 1941. Kummersdorf Proving Ground, south of Berlin. Rain taps lightly against workshop windows. Inside, the air is thick with oil, metal dust, and frustration. A captured Soviet tank sits on the concrete floor like a challenge carved in steel. The engineers circle it slowly. This is the first intact T-34 brought back for close study. Its armor is scarred. Paint is chipped. But the shape is unmistakable. Angled plates, broad tracks, compact turret. Engineer Wilhelm Krauss runs his hand along the sloped hull. It's not just thicker, he says quietly. It's smarter. Someone else mutters, it shouldn't work this well. But it does. Measurements are taken, angles calculated, shell impacts recreated with chalk. Every detail is recorded. The conclusions are uncomfortable. German tanks are undergunned, underarmored, built for a war that has already moved on. Meetings follow meetings. Designs are pulled from drawers. Some are dismissed immediately. Others are dusted off, reconsidered. Time is the enemy now. On the Eastern Front, Karl Weiss receives a replacement Panzer. Same model, same gun, same thin armor. The men do not complain. They climb in and do their jobs, but they know. When another T-34 appears on the horizon weeks later, the reaction is different. No laughter, no disbelief, only tension. They maneuver carefully, call in artillery early, wait for aircraft. When they fire, it is deliberate, precise. Survival has become a skill learned the hard way. Back in Germany, a decision is made. A new tank will be built. Not a modification, not a patch, something entirely different. The project moves with unusual speed. Sloped armor is adopted. A high-velocity gun is specified. Wider tracks, a more powerful engine. It will be called the Panther. Even as the blueprints take shape, men like Weiss continue fighting with what they have. Losses mount. Victories come slower. Every encounter with a T-34 reinforces the same lesson. The enemy adapted first. By autumn, German factories hum day and night. Steel is scarce. Labor is stretched thin. But the direction is set. The shock of that first encounter on a foggy Lithuanian road has traveled all the way back here, into every bolt and plate of the new design. War has a way of forcing honesty, and the truth, now impossible to ignore, is simple. The T-34 changed everything. December 1941, the Eastern Front. Snow covers burned out vehicles like a quiet apology. Engines struggle in the cold. Men wrap rags around hands and faces, breath freezing in the air. The war that was supposed to end before winter has settled in for something far worse. Karl Weiss stands beside his Panzer, now whitewashed and worn. The machine looks older than it should. So do the men. They have learned how to fight the T-34. That does not mean they are comfortable doing it. Spotters scan the tree line. Radios crackle. Somewhere ahead, Soviet engines growl, low and familiar. That sound no longer surprises anyone. It tightens jaws instead. Weiss thinks back to June, to the laughter, to the sparks bouncing harmlessly off sloped steel. It feels like another lifetime. When the Soviet tanks appear, the Germans do not rush. They wait. Artillery is ready. Coordinates are passed. An 88 speaks from far behind the line. One T-34 burns. Another keeps moving. Nothing about this feels like victory. Far from the front, the first Panther prototypes roll onto test tracks. They look powerful, modern, dangerous. But they are not here. And for many men already buried under the snow, they never will be. The T-34 did not win the war by itself, but it shattered an assumption the German army carried into the East. That superiority was permanent, that innovation belonged to one side alone. On that road near Raseiniai, the future arrived without warning. It arrived angled, wide-tracked, and fast. And for the first time, German tank crews realized they were chasing, not leading. Karl Weiss survives the winter. Many do not. Years later, he will describe that first encounter simply. We fired, he will say, and it didn't matter. That moment, the instant when a trusted weapon failed, echoed far beyond one battlefield. It reshaped designs, strategies, and expectations on both sides. History often turns, not on grand speeches or sweeping plans, but on sudden shocks. A spark on steel, a shell that bounces away, a laugh that dies in the throat.